in terms of the phone screens and interviews, this in my mind is very, very important. Obviously, we need to understand basic skill sets. Are you web? Are you web capable? Do you know how to use Excel, basic spreadsheets? Can you use Word? Are you familiar with Outlook? What made you apply for this position? What hours can you work? Tell me more about yourself. These are standard questions, and I think a critical part of the recruitment process where you can really infuse excitement and motivation about the opportunity is through the phone screen or through the interview. Now, the types of questions you ask in a phone screen or in an interview are an indication of your values, culture, your working style at your organization. Questions are answers to Gen Y. Along with the required basic contextual and technical questions for a given role, try also asking unique questions that will provide an experience for the candidate, an experience that makes your phone screen or interview more memorable than the next company your candidate is interviewing at. And you can be pretty sure that if the candidate is active, they're talking to more than one organization. This slide here, again, what are you asking? 95% of these people own a computer. 16% are online just about anywhere. Lots of communication is conducted via text message. So questions like what made you apply with this position, the answers are probably talk to friends. What hours can you work? Well, we know that they want flexible hours or best. Tell me about yourself. A lot of that information is available on their Facebook profile. Maybe some of the questions, just go back one slide. Maybe some of the questions you could ask would be, what are your favorite web applications? What are the differences to you working in small teams of 2 or 3 people versus working independently? Maybe you can tell me a little bit about your opinion on that. Are you a curious person? Do you like learning new things? Tell me about a time recently where you picked up something new and started communicating it to your friends. It gives the interviewer a chance to hear the candidate tell a story, but it also gives the candidate a chance to flex their brain. And as a matter of course, you're building a relationship through this conversation that is authentic, rather than a traditional phone screen or interview where the purpose is really to weed out candidates. So, just to summarize this particular component here, communication through the entire process is crucial. Gen Y are used to quick to the point communications. Communication earns respect. It has to be honest. It can be by email or by text message. There's not a problem with using the technology as an interface to continue the communication. The questions should be unique to the job, the culture, and the environment. And try to let go of preconceived notions around grilling people around skills. Hire on attitude, train for skills. That is absolutely critical these days. And in terms of the number of interviews, 5 interviews over 5 to 6 weeks is just not going to work. It is completely ineffective and inefficient. Think about this. This is a great little quote here. Over the next decade, the millennial generation, aka Gen Y, will entirely recast the image of youth from downbeat and alienated to upbeat and engaged. And I think that the downbeat and alienated piece here refers to Gen Y, who are less trusting, overworked, slightly more cynical of authority, and that perception is cast into pop culture. The Gen Y folks, they are much more upbeat, and the image that they cast into pop culture is upbeat and engaged. So you need to mirror that persona in your own process for recruitment. In terms of the offer, what's your usual process? Are you offering start Monday at $45,000 a year, period? Or are you saying that and describing the team that they'll be working with and how they operate, describing what the upward mobility or lateral mobility would be in the organization? What does the office look like? Has your candidate seen a picture of the office, should you be doing a phone screen, or have they been to the office and had a tour? One of the major components here is sometimes you get into nickel and diming. $2,000, $3,000 either side of the ideal salary is creating a gap between you getting that candidate. $2,000 a year is 40 bucks per week before tax, maybe 25 to 30 bucks in the pocket of a candidate. Are you willing to let a really solid candidate go for the difference of 25, 30 bucks a week after tax for that candidate? We need to be able to sell past the differences in a few $1,000s. Of course, understanding budget constraints and the existing salary structures within the organization. but really need to try to sell past the salary. From an onboarding perspective, how do you decrease the alienation that someone who comes into your organization feels? Do you put them through training sessions with the facilitator? Do you give them something to read and work through with headphones at their desk on a sort of self-learning pace? One of the quotes I read recently, which was interesting, was without discussion or one-on-one teaching, e-learning is what's left, and it is often considered, a very cost-effective, but yet ineffective way of onboarding. It leaves the impression that the organization does not care enough to invest time or money into the training and onboarding, and that in turn gives the impression to the employees that they are unimportant. So high-touch, authentic, group-focused, conversation-based storytelling and distributed onboarding across your teams and management is the best way to bring people on board. From this slide here, tell them about the organization structure. What does it look like? How is it organized? Why is it organized that way? Why is this company in business? The bottom middle picture, those are business cards. Does your new employee have awesome-looking business cards with some information on it that they're proud of? Are they engaged with the team very quickly? Do your existing staff bring people on in a way that makes them motivated and engaged instantly? The first few days of someone's experience in the organization are very telling to them about what they can expect for the future. And if you want to harness the energy and fresh thinking of that candidate, you need that highway to be open for them to onboard correctly. In terms of training and development, you can continue the process of working with Gen Y and maintaining a retention strategy specific to that group by explaining the rituals in the organization, explain some of the habits, the good and the bad, tell them why this happens, and let them know that they can be aware and understand things ahead of time, that they don't have to wait 6 to 8 weeks to become part of the grapevine to get into the know. Obviously, you can't put the training and development piece all into one day. Training and development should be distributed over a period of time, and obviously, accepting referrals from Gen Y candidates is also a great way to take them advantage.
So now we're going to talk with our Gen Yers about some of their various experiences. So we've got a couple questions that have been coming in from the audience here. So just 1 second, we'll get them all online here. So one of the first questions we've got, and for this we actually have 3 people. We have Stephanie, Lindsay, and Matt. So they all work as recruiters here for talent acquisition specialists. It's a cool job title. So in terms of different questions we've had coming in, one of the first ones is, how do you actually go about finding Gen Y candidates?
Well, a lot of Gen Y candidates, as has been mentioned, okay, well, first of all, I'm Stephanie. And I've been working here for probably about 18 months now, and I'm doing recruiting for a lot of Gen Yers. And a lot of the candidates that we find, as mentioned throughout this presentation, are on these social networks. So that is a really great way to find these people. I've noticed that a lot of people that do apply to jobs from job boards are probably not the ideal candidate, and to find the right Gen Yers, so to speak, you have to actually go to social networks and scour through them and find them. So it's really critical to use them effectively, and I think a good way to do that is to have really smart messaging when you are talking to them online. What do you think, Matt?
I agree with social networking, of course, 100%. Also, we definitely utilize the candidate themselves, and they have a good experience with you on the phone, and you're shooting back and forth, and you're making them laugh. And at the end of the conversation, even if they're not interested, they're going to feel comfortable telling you the names and numbers of some of their friends, maybe that would be interested. So not only is it a social networking thing, but it's also a comfort level thing, where if you can get them on your level, then they're going to feel comfortable giving you those numbers and names.
And maybe I can touch on what Matt just said there, that when you are building that relationship with that Gen Yer, and maybe they're not interested in the job that you're offering them at the moment, you can definitely circle back with them and talk to them about other opportunities, and really get to know them and talk to them on a level like that you're friends, and not that you're some formal person that's calling them about an opportunity or talking to them on Facebook about an opportunity, but you're someone who might be just a few years older than them, and you're talking to them really like you're a friend and not like you're a professional, I guess, in the sense that they think.
Just the other day, I reached out to a candidate on Facebook and offering them a position with one of the companies we work with, and he messaged me back saying, "Is this for real? Or are you a human being?" He was pretty surprised that someone's taking the time to reach out to him specifically. So he had his phone number there, so I called him within minutes to prove that I was in fact a human being and not a robot.
And just to, my name is Lindsay, and just to touch again on the Facebook thing, it's really important for every company to understand what their online community looks like. So for some of you who aren't as familiar with Facebook as others, a lot of the times you can build networks, and within a company, they can build a network based on your company. So maybe you have an office in Vancouver, maybe you have one in New York and in LA, for example. You may have a network there that you may not even know about. So there you go, right on Facebook, there's probably a network of 40 people or so that work for your company, and it's important, I think, for you to understand what your employees are saying online. And that also brings me to my next point about blogs, because we are a smart generation, we are going to do our due diligence, and we're going to, like Corey touched on this earlier, we're going to Google, and we're going to see what pops up about certain companies and working for them, and blogs are some of the first things that will show up. So it's important, I think, for you guys to be out there making sure you know what is going on in your online community, what's being said about you on the web, and that you're tuned in. So that's important as well.
I think that's a great point. Instead of ignoring it, you got to embrace it and be aware of it. A lot of people they pretend to not understand it, and essentially they just shut themselves off to it. So understanding this is happening is probably step number one. Acceptance, basically, and also the acceptance that some people are going to be saying bad things about your company. That's another reality of blogs and the way the web is currently architected. So
sorry, Jeff.
So one of the next questions we've got is, how do you talk to Gen Y candidates and what's most important? So in terms of perks, what kind of perks is it that they're looking for in respect to employers?
Well, one of the things, this is Stephanie again, one of the things that I do when I'm talking to someone, like, for example, if I get them on the phone after maybe we've had an initial discussion on Facebook or MySpace or whatever that network might be that I'm using, would be I get them on the phone and I just kind of ask them what they're looking for. And I think a lot of times people might tend to just kind of offer them, here's the offer, this is what we're looking for, but it's more important to find out what they're looking for and to try and take that job description that you are recruiting for or that opening that you are looking for someone for and kind of match it to what they're looking for in a really unique way.
If it is, this is Lindsay again, if it is at all possible, I would recommend probably steering away from mentioning commission right off the bat and how much they're going to be making, and do the best you can at communicating what the benefits are above and beyond what an hourly wage is going to be or what their salary is going to look like. We're a part of a generation where we work hard and we play hard. So we want to know about everything that a company has to offer and how it's going to benefit our life above and beyond just our 9-to-5 job, So that stuff is very important as well.
So what would you say is the most critical must-have for a prospective employer? Is there one thing that stands out more than the rest in terms of what Gen Y looks for?
I would say flexibility. Gen Yers, to me, have a million things going on, and they're part of a million different organizations and sports, and they want the flexibility. They want to know if 2 days before a game that just came out of nowhere, they can get that shift off and covered without having to put in a 2-week sort of request to have a shift taken. It's just not realistic.
I think another thing is the opportunity to move up within a company in a fast amount of time instead of having to be there for 10 years before they ever actually have a different title. And I think it might not just be about income, but it might be about title and responsibility as well, because people like to feel important, I think, more than anything else, and that really does it.
And, well, I guess we all have a slightly different opinion on this. This is Lindsay again. The best way you can try and communicate your company culture, I think that is number one. If a Gen Y-er can understand that your company is fabulous and these are the fabulous things that you're doing, it's going to get them interested and enticed right off the bat. So the best you can, try and communicate that.
If I can just throw something into the mix here, this is Cam. Surprise, we don't have 55-year-olds recruiting 21-year-olds in our organization. It doesn't make sense, right? So if you're in a spot where you're looking at, I know traditionally it makes sense to organize your recruitment team in a couple different ways, but if the high majority of who you're trying to recruit